Alright, so I've got my I got threaded needle with some waxed nylon here, and it's split waxed nylon. You could use whichever cordage you'd like, or thread, needle. I wouldn't use like regular small thread. You need something a little bit more denser than that, not regular sewing thread. But here is our plated length of cattail leaves, and I was able to weave about 9 feet of this to start, and the leaves themselves were approximately 33 inches, almost 3 feet a piece long, and it took about I'd say about 30 to get 9 feet at 33. This is about an inch wide, you know, on average, and it's good to just start out with having a lot of length to work with. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew, but one thing to keep in mind is there is an underside here, and there's a top side. The underside is where you pretty much put your splices in, and they're kind of rough, so you want that on the inside. So basically we're going to be sewing on the top. Okay, so basically, so you're going to take your top here at your start, all right, and you're just going to go ahead and just kind of overlap a little bit, and then I'm just going to lock this in, coming from this side here through both layers, and get that thread in there. So I could put a knot in there. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and just double it up a little bit. So I'm going to go back down again, and then come back up again on the other side, just to kind of anchor it in place. Okay, get that anchored in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go back one more time down, and then I'm gonna come back up the other side here and just kind of go up and down once. Probably do a running stitch, but I'm just gonna keep it simple. Like so. And then I just want these edges to align, and I'm gonna go back up through both layers just to stitch this in place. Come back down through both layers. Just like so. Okay. That's gonna lock that in place for us. Okay. So then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start to sew this around like so. Okay. But trying to keep it flat and just the edges overlapping. Okay. So as I hold this in place, I'm going to come up through the other side and then down again to lock that in. The thread keeps catching on the leg of the tripod here. And I'm going to go up a little ways like so. And down. So as I am working this around and getting it flat, then I can start to kind of pull the stitching a little tighter. Okay. And again, I'm just working, shaping this around. It'll flex for you. And down. And the cool thing about this wax nylon is that when cattail leaves dry, they tend to turn yellow, and I have yet to figure out a way, or if there is a way, to keep them green, but this thread will blend in nicely. So I'm going to continue this all the way around, and I'm going to continue working this all the way around to get a flat disc. Okay, as I'm working this around, I'm working into some of these elbows here, and that's the reason why we have the kind of weave that we were weaving underneath the next strand. And these elbows are the points where you want to run your thread through, because this is the densest amount of material that keeps the thread from ripping or pulling through the fibers of the leaves. So I'm going to come up from underneath, and I want to work this through both layers. Hopefully you can see that. And then I want to take this and basically cross over to the other side, down through both layers, like that. Okay. And I want to repeat that on the next elbow, or ear, however you want to call it. Just keeps catching onto the leg of the tripod. And then I want this to work down. Just like so. So I'm going to continue this, working this around, and just basically just sewing the elbows now through both layers. Just like so. Okay, it looks like I've gotten this the diameter that I need it to be, which is, for my size, about two-thirds and a quarter around. And so now I'm going to start to stitch these in, and I'm stitching them in at the elbows, as you can see, as much as possible. And then I'll just start to mold this down so that it becomes more of a dome. All right, to create the sides of the hat. Okay, so once we've got this, once we got the circumference pretty much mapped up to your head, and you could make it almost exact, because what's going to happen is when this dries out, it's going to kind of the leaves are going to shrink up, but it's going to give you more volume. They're not going to shrink down. They're going to kind of shrink outward. So it'll be, if you fit it exactly, then by the time that this dries out completely, it'll be, you know, just right. So this is just this. So once you get it flat and it's the same circumference that you need, then you start to bend the leaves down and stitch. Okay, and then at that point, once you have sort of like a dome or a concavity like this, then you can fit it on your head and make sure it fits right. And right now this fits pretty good. And so I'm just going to continue to stitch around. And again, I'm trying to find the, I'm stitching in at the elbow points through both layers, going up and then down. That's where there's a majority of the fibers or plant material is collected, so you can sew a pretty tight stitch without ripping through. So I'm just going to continue this around, and I want to start to shape the sides of the hat downward, and then I'm going to continue this until it reaches just the top of my ears, so the top of my ears. So up. sure you're just getting the edges there. Just like that, okay? Just like that, okay? So I'm going to continue spiraling this down all the way around, and then this is going to build out, and probably by the time I get to the end of my length, this will then probably maybe just start to touch my ears. At that point, I'm going to need to add probably maybe another 9 feet more of plant fibers or so. Maybe another, I don't know, 6 or so. We'll see. But at that point, we'll take a break, and then I'll just start to add more length. So that's basically how you're starting to, how this is starting to form up. Okay, it fits now. All I gotta do is go around, add some more length, and then go around one more time. And then it should be just above my ear here. And then I want to start to fold it up, and I want to keep the front part flat, but then the back part I want to fold up to create the fedora shape. But it fits pretty good now. This is looking good. I know it looks funny, but this is kind of how you make sure it's sized correctly. So there it is. I just want to make sure that I get down just till it's touching my ear. So we'll add some more length one more time around.